Hi. When I was in high school in the 1960s, I had this fabulous high school teacher who asked the students what period in history we wanted to study. So we chose the Vietnam War because that was what was happening in our midst at that time. And so as a class, we invited in speakers from every possible perspective. And we got magazines from every possible perspective, really. We looked at fascist, communist, socialist, left-wing, right-wing, I.F. Stone's Weekly, the Council on Foreign Relations, Foreign Affairs. We really would have just a huge array of perspectives, and then as a class we would discuss them. And this experience just opened up a world of learning to me, and it especially opened up the world of tracking current events as they were unfolding, realizing that history is being made right now. So a big part of the motivation for Thrive Together was really to share that experience with our network, to help share the skills and the experience of tracking what's going on right now in the world, whether it has to do with following the money or breakthrough technologies or new solution strategies, all kinds of alternative eco-communities around the world. Any number of things. I mean, education, everything is changing right now in really radical ways, and we are tracking that and sharing what we're learning with our network, learning from you. So that's kind of what's happening. And in our first ever live event this weekend, we talked a little more about following the money and about some possible scenarios that we can imagine from our perspective. We don't know what's going to be happening, but we know that major global changes are going down right now. And so I wanted to share some of them with you, our broader network, and to say if you can join the conversation through Thrive Together, great. If you can't, I highly encourage you to be tracking these things on your own, because it's really an amazing time in history and the ramifications are profound. So what's going on right now? You know, okay, in 1944, after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the IMF and the World Bank. And it was soon after that that the US dollar was established as the sole currency for international trade. Now, for the first time since then, countries all around the world, growing numbers, really every few days, new countries are joining in on this, are trading not using the dollar. And I mean, it includes Canada, New Zealand, Pakistan, Russia, China, Australia, India. Every day, someone new is joining in on that. And it's very significant. I mean, I think between Russia and China, it's nearly $1 trillion worth of deals have been done just since this summer. It's now November 2014. China opened a $4.2 trillion stock market to the world, also in this month. That's going to have major ramifications on the U.S. stock market. And in Toronto, Canada, it was just announced that there's going to be the first offshore hub for Chinese currency, the renminbi, of which the yuan is the basic unit. So that's happening. And also there was a G20 meeting this November 15th and 16th. I'm actually going to read the communique that was official that came out of there, just to get a feel for, like, really big things are happening right now, and I do encourage you to be tracking it because it's very significant. Okay, it says, the implementation of the 2010 reforms remains our highest priority for the IMF, and we urge the United States to ratify them. If this does not happen by year end, we ask the IMF to build on its existing work and stand ready with options for next steps. Okay, so what does this mean? The 2010 reforms basically have to do with countries becoming Basel III compliant. That in the Basel III compliance means that banks agree to have a higher percentage of reserves in the bank. The intention is supposedly to keep a crash like happened in 2008 from having, dire global consequences. So it just kind of creates a little bit of a buffer between countries. That's the idea. And the United States has not agreed to be compliant with that. So now they're sort of, the G20's organizing to say, well, then we're going to do something if the US doesn't agree. So the point is that the role of the United States in global affairs is changing. The role of the dollar is changing. And so I'm going to offer here 5 possible scenarios that could be unfolding with the information that we have. Like I said, I don't know, but I really do encourage you to be tracking it. And, you know, I'm fortunate to have grandchildren, but whether you do or not, I think of it, you know, one of these days some young person is going to come up and say, what were you doing during these times? So much is going on now in really what could be considered the great fascist takeover of all times. And I encourage you to do what you can so that you can answer that question by saying, I was awake and I was doing everything that I could do to help create a thriving world for you. So tune in and take care to participate in these amazing, unprecedented times. And here are some possible scenarios. Okay, thanks.
Now I want to talk a little bit about the dragon family and the possible scenarios that we laid out in the blog. And also I want to add several other scenarios for your consideration, because in that blog we only addressed 2, and of course there are many. So I want to flesh that out a little bit today. So Plan A that we covered in the blog is basically where the United States government and the U.S. Treasury goes along with the elders. And for those of you who might not have seen it, the elders or the dragon families is an alliance of families throughout Asia, in China, in Philippines, in Indonesia, in Japan, Vietnam, and to some degree even in Europe. And these families are, as far as we can tell, this is educated speculation over years of research, are the current stewards of most of the wealth of the world. I certainly thought for a long time that the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers were in that role, and it turns out that over centuries, gold has been collected, oftentimes in very nasty ways, mostly in the spoils of war, where one country would invade another and take their gold, just as it has been going on, in current times, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya, in the Ukraine. One of the first things that happens in each of those wars that doesn't reach mainstream media is the invading forces go in and take all the gold that they can find. So that has been going on throughout recorded history, and it's been kind of collected and then buried for safekeeping in various troves throughout Asia. And what we have been told is that there are people, and we know people who've met with them, we've never met with them directly ourselves, who say that these Asian elders are actually very spiritual, very advanced beings who recognize that this gold is not truly theirs, or at least not most of it, and that they're in a position of stewardship awaiting the time when they have the security, they have the opportunities to actually use that gold to basically reboot the global economic system and rescue humanity from destroying ourselves. And it seems that time is now, and that's what we're being told. So that offer is on the table, but it entails the Western banking cabal, and that is the Rothschild-Rockefeller fiat money fractional reserve system, which has been in place for at least 100 years in the U.S. and has been spreading across the globe to include almost every major country right now. So one of the requirements of the cabal, of the elders, is that the cabal step aside out of their position of domination and control, which has led to such environmental, economic, and just human destruction, and that they take a more humble participatory role as partners with the rest of the world in having an asset-backed system. So they don't get to make up money anymore. Now it's actually based on the real assets of precious metals, of food, of water, of people's hard work, so that money actually goes back to being correlated to real value, to human experience. And of course, the cabal doesn't want to do that because they've used this fiat money system and the petrodollar that they've enforced as the global exchange currency. They've used that to take over control to a great degree. And what we're being told is that the elders have basically said to the cabal, you know, you've blown it and you don't get to continue to do that. Another of our educated speculations is we've been told that the money that was borrowed to create the IMF, the World Bank, the Federal Reserve, the whole Bretton Woods system back after World War II was borrowed against this Asian gold quietly and has not been paid back, and it's way overdue. And the U.S. has now had its franchise to print money through the Federal Reserve terminated, and we're told that that's one of the reasons why they have finally stopped the at least overt so-called quantitative easing or printing of money through the Federal Reserve. It remains to be seen whether or not that's true. So in Plan A, the U.S. government goes along with the elders, and there's a global currency reset where currencies actually go up or down based on real assets, not on military force or smoke and mirrors. And that new global asset-backed system and the safety that that entails allows the Asian elders to begin releasing this huge wealth into the world through individuals, through governments, and especially through humanitarian projects that have been selected because of their breakthrough nature and their ability to actually restore the environment of the world, to restore the economic integrity, to restore the health, to restore honest communication systems, and so forth. So these troves, I'm going to show you some pictures, and I'm not claiming anything about these pictures other than they give you a sense what it would be like to be in the presence of these amount of collected gold. Every bit of this gold was brought out of the earth by somebody's hard labor. And we're told that this is what a trove looks like. And we're told that there are over 100 of football field-sized troves around the world containing these types of volumes of pure gold. Okay, so in Plan A, the U.S. government steps out of the way, the Western cabal steps out of the way and becomes a partner with the rest of the world. These funds are released and tremendous restoration takes place throughout the world and the world economic system is rebooted. That's Plan A. Plan B is where the cabal continues to resist and go against the Asian elders. And they continue with their police state. They may continue to try to create World War III in order to inflict martial law and more taxation and all that. But in this scenario, the U.S. would be isolated. The U.S. dollar would collapse, and the level of social and economic unrest that would ensue would not be a pretty sight, to say the least. And if the U.S. government still tried to inflict their police state, I think the chances of them being able to do it when the country is actually broke, since the U.S. government is, at least $17 trillion in debt, and all the major banks are hundreds of trillions of dollars in derivative debt. When that truth comes out, I don't know that they will be able to pay the military or the police to try to inflict some sort of martial law police state. So it's critical, no matter what happens, that the emerging systems of alternative currencies and alternative organic growing and alternative media, alternative security organizations and conflict resolution and so forth, that those be allowed to emerge to replace a collapsing system if unfortunately that were to happen. Okay, that's Plan B. And we'll be doing a poll later on where you'll be reminded about these plans and have an opportunity to vote on which of these plans you think is most likely, or none of the above. So moving on to Plan C, we didn't talk about this in the blog. So this is an equally critical one and a very important real possibility. And in this case, basically, it turns out that the elders either aren't who they claim to be, or don't have the wealth that they thought, or don't have the power to use that wealth for good. And in this scenario, potentially, the Chinese government, as well as the other BRICS countries, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, despite the fact that they are showing all of these signs of working around the Federal Reserve and the NSA and the Western banking system, in this scenario, potentially, they're actually all secretly in cahoots with the Western cabal to create the very one world government run by them amongst other central bankers, and to use that to create global control. We warned about this in the film, and we also talked about the a one world cashless currency. And with a cashless currency, then the bankers could strip anyone of their assets with a click with a keystroke, and the currency that has been suggested for this is the SDR, special drawing rights, which was actually invented 60, 70 years ago out of the IMF, and was suggested as basically a global fiat money system where the IMF and the World Bank would be in charge of, on a global scale, basically what the Federal Reserve here or the central bank, the Bank of England does in England and so many other countries, central banks. So now it would be on a global system, and the bankers would still be in charge. And it would turn out that the collapse of the U.S., which could still happen, was exactly as we warned about in the movie. It was a way to fool people into thinking that they were going along with the new system that was going to be better than U.S. tyranny, but instead it turned out to be global tyranny. And meanwhile, the American citizens gave in and the U.S. economy collapsed, and now the entire world was at the mercy of this global system. Some people have referred to this continuing demise of the U.S. As a slow burn. And in this scenario, basically, this would be a scenario that would operate without the elders having a strong influence, and it would end up under the dominance of the Bank of International Settlements and all that entails, the Western banking system, the IMF, and the World Bank. So that's Plan C. Plan D is also without the elders, as I've described, but in this case, China continues its economic growth, and it has been hoarding gold besides these troves. It has been openly holding gold and mining gold for decades. And it turns out that their economy becomes the strongest. The yuan becomes the new mandatory global currency of exchange. And now we're in a global dominating situation. But now it's the People's Republic of China running the show instead of the U.S. or the BIS. It's still a scenario of dominance. That's Plan D. Okay, one more. And in this one, we'll call this Plan E. And this may sound very strange. It's highly unlikely in many ways. But at the same time, I don't want to write this off. Because once again, with the educated speculation and the years of research that we've done, this one seems to actually play an important role, potentially. Plan E is that the helpful as well as harmful roles of extraterrestrials and interdimensional beings ends up playing a huge role in the outcome of these huge global dynamics that are shifting right now. And this is quite a scenario to entertain. On the harmful side, potentially if there are reptilian beings, the so-called archons, the tall grays, and other beings that have been reported to not necessarily have our best interest in mind, let's say. Or on the other side, we've been told that they're very helpful beings, like the short grays, the Syrians, the Pleiadians, and so forth. And I must say, as I contemplate this, it just cracks me up that we could end up with a whole new level of cosmic bigotry, where now we're arguing about, well, I should rule you because you have scales or you don't have scales. And okay, we're both gray, but you're too tall or you're too short. And once again, it's an opportunity to just really get in touch with the core principle. It doesn't matter what you look like or how tall you are. What matters is your behavior. Whether it's on the global level or the cosmic level, are you violating other beings or not.